Hey everyone, so I know it's Wednesday, so it's midweek. I typically try to do these videos as soon as possible after the game. I have been working every day and it's been pretty rough, so I've been coming home pretty late, haven't really been sleeping much. So in between the time of doing everything, trying to be busy and everything, it's hard to kind of make these videos. It's even harder knowing being what happened Sunday, and then on top of that, my fantasy team. So try to make it short as possible. I wasn't 100% able to watch all the game, but when I did see, it was very frustrating. So I can't imagine watching from start to end how frustrating it was to watch the whole game. I do think that my biggest concern is obviously when I went into this game, now it sounds unrealistic, but at the same time, it was something that was doable. Last year, when we met the Chargers before the end of the season, we put 60 points up, and granted, that was a lot. It had to do with defense. Our offense wasn't as great. However, you come back again with this year, and you take away the Chargers. Now, granted, last year they didn't have Herbert, they didn't have Bosa, but you kind of figured out at that point how to create more holes with their players, because I mean they didn't add a lot of players into their offseason, especially with bringing Harbaugh in. I probably butchered that name, but either way, it's just so frustrating because as a person who looks at the quality of players that we have on paper, this team should have won. The Raiders should have won. It was no doubt, yes, it was going to be close. However, it should have never been that bad. Watching this offense struggle so terribly with all the offensive weapon that we have. There was multiple choices in what our quarterback could have thrown to, and how terrible the offensive line. At this point, it's just so frustrating as a fan to watch the talent that you have on this team started to just be wasted. And I hate wasted time and players. So watching the offensive line not make the holes for Zeus, seeing that the offensive line wasn't blocking for Gardner for long, and then seeing Gardner, one of his biggest qualities is why he got the starting job versus Aiden O'Connell was to extend the plays, and seeing that he wasn't extending the plays, and if he wasn't doing it to benefit long run. I mean, I do give him the credit that he was trying to do his best and trying to get first downs by him just using his legs, which was nice. However, this team that we went up against, all they had was Nick Bosa and Khalil Mack. So for that, in the aspect that our offensive line should have been a lot better, blocking and doing better, I do expect that, because Khalil Mack's getting older, so is Nick Bosa, and I think Nick Bosa got injured in one of the plays. So it's like, it was so frustrating because I watched this team and I can see why it's so easy to watch Davante Adams be so frustrated. I didn't watch the receivers, and now we're kind of watching the receivers, and it's like, it is exhausting. I can't imagine as Davante Adams to see your quality as a player and your opportunity to bring this team to another level, and you feel like you're not doing anything. You feel like your hands are tied. Like, it's got to be frustrating as a great player that he is to feel like you're not being utilized to your best. I feel like there was, even if there wasn't the matchups and you feel like, oh, he was super covered, it's Davante Adams. Give him the ball. He's going to do whatever he takes to get to that open spot. Give him an opportunity. And I felt watching the receivers, it was really rough. And I don't know if you guys have watched it, it's on Netflix. It was a lot. It's a lot to see him go through that and see that part. I mean, we haven't watched the whole series yet, but it was a lot to see that. And knowing the background, I'm like, I could see how frustrating it is for a player when you know how great you can be as an opportunist. If you were to be given that opportunity, I think at this point, if the second game that we play against Baltimore Ravens, this is another hard team. I think that the Baltimore Ravens have a much better defense than in comparison to the Chargers. So the fact that, we really couldn't do much on that team against that team, it's kind of concerning going into this game, and thinking like, can we do anything at this point? So I feel like the next few games, I'll give Gardner Minshew a little bit of hesitance in the sense of he didn't have a lot of practice with Davante Adams. Obviously, he had the birth of his son. So, I think timing of routes, knowing when to throw, how fast to throw, knowing like, okay, it takes 1.2 seconds just to get him to that route. I've been doing this so repetitively, getting comfortable with him. I think that's going to be the timing of feeling that chemistry and getting that trust when you should trust Davante Adams no matter what. However, it has to be very difficult. Gardner Minshew is coming to a nation that have high expectations, a lot of pressure. Sometimes you wonder if Tom Brady should just come back and suit up. It's really hard to see because, like I said, seeing all the talent that we have and not having it transition to wins, it's very difficult. And honestly, if we want to succeed at this point, I don't know if the Raiders are allergic to good quarterbacks, but we need to do whatever it takes to get a secure first round pick to get that quarterback that we obviously desperately need and that this organization hasn't seen in a long time. So at this point, in my opinion, I don't want to over jump to conclusions. However, it feels like very Jimmy Garoppolo last year. So obviously Jimmy Garoppolo was way worse. I'm not saying that, but it's just giving that same feeling. At what point do you start Aiden O'Connell? Do you give Gardner Minshew 2 more games, or do you take a look and say, hey, the teams that he was going up against, that's very unfair to make an assessment. I think Aiden O'Connell did pretty good, but I think when other teams figured him out, he kind of started to regress in the sense of making his reads. It's just really hard, I think, when you don't have a quarterback. It's going to make it even harder, knowing that in the offseason we could have picked up Lamar Jackson and seeing how well he played. It is frustrating because this team has so many opportunities to do so much better than what we are doing, and it's like at this point it's like a curse. It really is a curse. I feel like sometimes I'm like a Cowboy fan or something, because no matter what you do, it's like it is, we shoot ourselves in the leg and it's shooting, it's like it's just insanity. And I think the most frustrating part is knowing that Herbert's offense is completely worse in comparison to the year before, and seeing that this team somehow still got points up on the board. And I'm not blaming the defense. I think the defense was exhausted, gassed out. But on paper, you lost Austin Eckler, you lost Keenan Allen, you lost Williams, and it's like at this point, what is our excuse? Because I'm running out of excuses. I'm running out of time. I'm running out of patience. I'm tired of saying the same thing, that we need a quarterback, and we never got a quarterback that has filled the void that we needed to get to that level. And at what point do you just say we gotta take the most assets that we have, and like the Arizona Cardinals, and get rid of our best players to build again, to rebuild again? And that's what ultimately is starting to look like starting this season. And I don't want to just jump to conclusions. However, I have little faith that this next few games are going to prove me anything differently. Tell me what you think. Obviously, it's hard because, like I said, I have fantasy on top of it, and I also went 0-1. I lost Christian McCaffrey. He went injury, questionable, probably on the verge of being injury reserve, first round pick going out already. And then I had T. Higgins, who also went out. And then Njoku. So, I mean, I'm obviously on the verge of being in a mental breakdown. At this point, I don't know how much more of the NFL season I'm going to watch, because it's going to be very, very difficult to do so. I hope everybody did better than me, at least in fantasy, because at least you have something to look forward to. I don't know at this point. You tell me what you think. Am I being overreactive that this is one game? Give it a few games. But I think that we're not spraying the ball. So seeing that, a lot of these defenses kind of figured us out, I feel like no matter what coach we put in, it's still the same Raiders. Still Raiders. It's still the same Raiders. You don't know how to spread the ball. You don't know how to push the ball down the field. They stack the box, so there's no run game. And it's the same thing that we did last year, and I don't see why it is. And considering that you added all these people, and for what? It's just a waste. So maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm just so bummed out because I just had back-to-back losses, and it's a lot tougher when you have expectations and just see them diminished. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to keep hope. It's just very tough, as being a Raider fan, kind of when you see the same thing play out again and again, it's really hard to kind of keep hope, because you just know how this ends. You've seen this play multiple times in front of your face, and it's starting to look this way. I think if that's the case, I think Davante Adams needs to be traded. I think he deserves an opportunity to win somewhere where, he has a chance to be a Super Bowl champion, obviously. The Jets, still one team that would definitely take Davante Adams in a heartbeat. I would even say the Saints. Even the Saints looked pretty good considering they were going against Carolina. I think that's kind of hard to assess. Obviously, they have a tougher opponent with Cowboys, so seeing how they progress, if they were to add Davante Adams, would that make it even better for them? Obviously, I also had Olave in another fantasy, which was shit too. So it's like I don't trust anybody at this point. I don't know. it is what it is, I guess. Tell me what you think. I'm on the verge of thinking of starting to do DraftKings so I can win something in life here at this point. JK, I'm being dramatic. But at the same time, I probably will need to, because if the way my fantasy is looking at, I don't have a lot to root for. So tell me what you think. I'm probably overreacting, and I hope you have a good rest of the week. Bye.